Millionaire mail-order bride cared for a wounded dog. Warriors appeared with offerings of peace. What makes a man who's given up on life suddenly care again? What power does a child's tears hold over a heart turned to stone? This is a story about promises kept across prairies, about debts that can't be measured in gold, and about how sometimes the most profound connections happen between strangers who recognize each other's wounds. In the forgotten corners of Dusty Ridge, where hope had long since blown away with the tumbleweeds, one rainy night would prove that miracles still ride on horseback if you're broken enough to believe. The fence post creaked wrong. Jacob Stone had lived on this dying ranch for 23 years. 23 years of learning every sound the wind could make, every groan of old wood, every whisper of sage against weathered boards. This creak was different. This creak carried weight. He stepped onto the porch, Winchester in hand but not raised. The rain had turned the world to mud and misery. Lightning sketched skeleton trees against a purple sky. And there, gripping the fence like it was the only solid thing left in creation, stood a boy. Maybe 10, maybe 12. Hard to tell with the rain plastering dark hair to a too-thin face. Clothes that might have been white once. No shoes. Feet bloody from miles of running or walking or both. The boy's mouth moved. No sound came out. Just tears mixing with rain and eyes that had seen the end of everything. Jacob waited for the boy to run. That's what wild things did when cornered. But the child just stood there, fingers white-knuckled on the fence, body shaking with cold or fear or the effort of staying upright. "You lost?" Jacob's voice came out rusty. Months since he'd used it for more than cursing cattle. The boy shook his head. "Not lost. Something worse. Hurt?" A nod this time. Small, like admitting it might make it fatal. "Can you make it to the house?" The boy tried to climb the fence. He made it halfway before his strength gave out. He fell backward into the mud and lay there like he'd finally found where he belonged. Jacob hadn't moved fast in years, but he moved now, over the fence in one motion that pulled muscles he'd forgotten existed. The boy weighed nothing. Bird bones and rain. "I got you," Jacob muttered, though he wasn't sure if he was talking to the boy or himself. "I got you." The child's eyes fluttered open. Green as spring grass. Green as everything Jacob had stopped believing in. "Don't got coal," the boy whispered. "Already used to it." The words hit Jacob like a physical blow. He'd said the same thing once, 30 years ago. Different fence, different storm, different life. He carried the boy inside, tracking mud across floors that hadn't seen footprints but his own in 3 years. Set him by the fire that he kept burning out of habit more than need. Warmth was for people who still felt things. The boy sat hunched, arms wrapped around knees, making himself small. Practiced at disappearing, but his eyes tracked everything. The rifles are on the wall. The single plate on the table. The photograph turned face down on the mantel. "Hungry?" Jacob asked. "Don't want to take your food?" Wasn't using it anyway. Jacob found bread, the last of the bacon, and coffee that might warm something besides memory. "Eat." The boy ate like he'd forgotten how. Small bites.
Careful.
Like someone might snatch it away. Jacob recognized that too. Orphanage eating. Institution eating. Eating like gratitude might be demanded as payment. "What's your name?" The boy stopped chewing. Swallowed hard. "They said I don't get one anymore." "Who said?" Silence. The kind that held screams. "Well, I've got to call you something. How about boy for now?" "Boy's fine." Relief and acceptance. "What do I call you?" "Jacob or Stone or nothing. Doesn't much matter anymore." The boy studied him. "You're sad too," not a question.
Recognition.
One broken thing identifying another. Sometimes, Jacob pulled out his tobacco, hands needed something to do besides remember. "Are you running from something or to something?" "Both." "Fair enough." Thunder shook the house. The boy flinched, then pulled something from his shoe. Paper folded small and damp. He smoothed it on the table with reverent care. It was a drawing. Charcoal on what might have been ledger paper. 200 riders, maybe more, racing across an impossible sky. At the front, a woman with wings instead of arms. At the back, a small figure watched them leave. "My pa drew this," the boy said. "Before he died. They said they'd come for me one day. Said I just had to find the right place to wait." "Is this the right place?" "Don't know. Looked like it might be." The boy traced the riders with one finger. "You believe in promises?" Jacob thought of his own promises. To love, to protect, to never leave. All broken now. all buried with Beth and their daughter in the cemetery on the hill. No, he said. Not anymore. The boy nodded like he'd expected that answer. Me neither, but Pa did. Said promises live longer than people if you make them right. Your Pa sounds like he was a good man. He was everything. The boy's voice cracked. They killed him for it. Jacob didn't ask who they were. In his experience, they were always the same. Men who took what they wanted. Men who broke what they couldn't own. Men who made orphans and widows and hollow-eyed children who drew salvation they'd never see. You can sleep by the fire, Jacob said. Storm will pass by morning. Then what? Send the boy back out into a world that had already tried to kill him? Call the sheriff, who'd ask questions neither of them wanted answered? I can work, Turashim, the boy said quickly. No horses, cattle, can mend, can stay quiet. Didn't ask for payment. Everyone asks eventually. Christ, the weight of that truth from that young mouth. Not tonight. Tonight you just sleep. Rest is free here. The boy curled up by the fire like he'd done it 1,000 times. Asleep in minutes, but restless. Hands clenching and unclenching. Lips moving with words Jacob couldn't catch. In the firelight, bruises showed. Neck, wrists. The kind that came from hands, not accidents. The kind that said someone had tried to own this child and failed. Jacob found himself checking the doors. Barring windows he'd left open for years. Loading guns that hadn't tasted oil in months. If someone came looking, they'd find more than a broken old man and a lost boy. They'd find what Jacob had buried with his family, the willingness to kill for something worth protecting. He sat in his chair, watched the boy sleep, watched the fire die to embers, and for the first time in 3 years, felt something besides numb. The drawing lay on the table. 200 riders that would never come, a promise that couldn't be kept. But the boy believed, or wanted to believe, and maybe that was enough. Thunder rolled away east. Rain gentled to a whisper. And Jacob Stone sat guard over a child who'd appeared from nowhere, heading nowhere, carrying nothing but bruises and impossible hope. Should have stayed away, boy, he whispered. Nothing here but ghosts. But even as he said it, he knew it was too late. The boy had brought something with him, something Jacob had buried so deep he'd forgotten its name. Purpose. Near dawn, the boy woke screaming. Not loud, trained to suffer quietly. But Jacob heard it, was beside him before he was fully awake himself. Easy. You're safe. Just dreams. They're coming, the boy gasped. They always come. They always find me. Who? The mission. Father Miguel. He says I belong to God, but he means I belong to him, and I can't go back. I can't. Mission Father Miguel. Jacob knew the place, 20 miles south. Industrial school, they called it. Place where Indian children got turned into Christians. Where boys like this one got turned into property. They're not taking you. You don't understand. I'm registered. Tagged. Like cattle. They have rights. They have nothing. Jacob's voice went hard as winter ground. Rights end at my fence line. Anyone who crosses it, meaning harm to you, answers to me. You'd fight priests? I'd fight God himself if he came for a child under my roof. The boy stared at him. Why? Why indeed? Because a fence post creaked wrong? Because green eyes looked like spring? Because sometimes a man gets one chance to balance the scales? Because someone should have, Jacob said. For my daughter. Someone should have fought. Should have said no. Should have stood between her and the fever that took her. His voice broke. No one did, but I can now for you. The boy absorbed this. Then, as careful as handling eggs, he took Jacob's calloused hand in both of his. My name's Samuel, he whispered. Samuel Birdsong. My father was James Birdsong. My mother was Mary Stands Alone. They're dead, but I'm not. And if you let me stay, I'll help you remember that you're not either. Jacob squeezed the small hands. All right, Samuel Birdsong. All right. The hunters and the hunted. 3 days passed in strange peace. Samuel worked without being asked. He knew horses like he'd been born to them. Gentle hands that calmed the spooked mare Jacob had given up on. Fixed fences with an engineer's precision. Cooked, simple food that somehow tasted like memories of better times. But he never stopped watching the horizon. They'll come, he said on the third evening, cleaning rifles Jacob had neglected. Father Miguel doesn't give up what he considers his. How long were you there? 2 years since Ma died. They said it was charity, Christian duty, but Samuel's hands paused. You know what they do to boys who won't forget their names? Their real names? Jacob could guess. Had heard whispers. Seen children returning to reservations with empty eyes and scars that didn't show. They can try to take you. Trying and doing are different things. You're one man. One man who's got nothing left to lose. That's worth 10 who do. They came at sunset on the 4th day. 6 riders. Father Miguel in black robes that couldn't hide the gun on his hip. Sheriff Patterson, bought and paid for. 4 deputies who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Mr. Stone, Patterson called from the gate. Got a runaway ward of the state here? Got a boy helping with chores. No runaways. Samuel Birdsong is registered property of St. Catherine's Mission School. We have papers. I have guns. Want to compare? Father Miguel dismounted. Moved forward like he owned the earth. This need not be violent, Mr. Stone. The boy requires discipline, structure, salvation. Looks to me like he requires safety, food, someone who sees him as more than property. You don't understand his nature. These children, they're wild, savage, without proper guidance. Without proper guidance, they remember who they are. That's what scares you, Father? The priest's face darkened. Sheriff, remove the boy. Patterson shifted uncomfortably in his saddle. Now, Father, Jacob Stone's not a man to push. Maybe we could... I said remove him. Samuel appeared in the doorway, straight-backed, chin up, but Jacob could see the tremor in his hands. I'll go, the boy said. I don't want anyone hurt for me. Get back inside, Mr. Jacob. Inside now. Jacob's voice brooked no argument. To the riders, boy's made his choice. He chooses to stay. I choose to let him. Anyone who wants to dispute that better be ready to pay in blood. You'd threaten a man of God? Father Miguel demanded. I see no man of God here. I see a slaver in a collar. And yes, I'd threaten him. I'd do more than threaten if he takes one step closer to my land. Sheriff, the priest commanded, but Patterson was already backing his horse. Father, maybe we should return with proper warrants. Follow legal channels. I have all the authority I need. Not here, you don't. Jacob drew iron. Not fast.
Deliberate.
This is my land, my home, and that boy is under my protection. You want him, you go through me. 1 man against 6? 1 man who's already dead inside. You can't kill me, Father. My wife and daughter already did that. All you can do is finish the job. The question is, how many of you want to join me? The deputies exchanged glances. They'd heard stories. Jacob Stone, before the tragedy. The man who'd cleaned out the Garrett gang single-handed. Who'd once put 12 rounds through a playing card at 50 yards just to prove a point. This isn't over, Father Miguel promised. It is for today. Get off my land. Don't come back without an army. They left, but Jacob knew it was temporary. Men like Father Miguel didn't accept defiance. They'd return with more guns, more paper, and more righteousness. I'm sorry, Ma, Samuel said that night. I brought trouble. You brought purpose, different thing. Jacob studied the boy. That drawing, your paws. Tell me about the riders. Samuel's eyes lit up. The Crow, my mother's people. Pa said they made a promise when I was born. Said if anything happened to him and Ma, they'd come. 200 warriors. But they're scattered, broken, moved to different reservations, different states. The promise was probably just something to help me sleep. Maybe, maybe not. Jacob made a decision. Can you write? Yes, Pa taught me, both languages. Then write. Tell them where you are. What's happening? Let them decide if promises matter. How would I even send? I know people, stage drivers, traders. Word can travel if it needs to. Jacob pulled out paper and ink. Write. Samuel wrote through the night. Not 1 letter, but dozens. Each carefully addressed to names he'd memorized. Uncles, cousins, clan brothers his father had spoken of. Jacob watched the boy work. Saw hope battling resignation in the green eyes. This child had learned not to believe in rescue, but he was trying anyway. What will you do if they come? Samuel asked. Make room, feed them, fight beside them if needed. And if they don't? Then we make our own clan, you and me, small but fierce. Samuel smiled. First real smile Jacob had seen. I'd like that. being your clan. Go to bed, boy. Tomorrow we post these letters and prepare for war. But as Samuel headed for his blankets by the fire, he paused. Mr. Jacob, why do you have faith in promises you don't believe in? Jacob considered. Maybe because you do. Maybe faith is like that. Contagious. Spreads from one person to another until it becomes real. Is that why you're helping me? Because I have faith? I'm helping you because you're worth helping. The faith is just a bonus. The letters went out with the morning stage. Jacob paid for speed, for discretion, and for hands that would carry hope across territories. 3 weeks passed. No riders, no rescue, but also no Father Miguel. The priest was planning something. Jacob could feel it like storm pressure. He's waiting for us to relax, Samuel said, proving again he was older than his years. That's what predators do. Then we don't relax, we prepare. They turned the ranch into a fort. Samuel revealed skills that broke Jacob's heart. A child who knew too much about defense, about sight lines, and about escape routes. Together they cached weapons, stored water, and planned for a siege. And at night, Samuel drew, added to his father's picture, 2 figures by a fence, a house with smoke rising, details that made the impossible specific. You're adding us, Jacob observed. Pa said drawings have power. If you put truth in them, they call to truth. Samuel added another line. Besides, you're part of it now. The promise includes you. I didn't ask to be included. Best things never ask. They just are. The attack came before dawn on the 25th day. Not 6 riders, but 20. Father Miguel had brought hired guns, the kind who specialized in removing problems. Samuel, Jacob shook the boy awake. They're here. Remember what we practiced? The boy nodded, grabbing the rifle they'd cut down for his size. No tears. No panic. Just terrible readiness. How many? Too many, but we'll make them pay for every inch. They took positions. Jacob at the front windows, Samuel covering the back. The house built for living now, purposed for dying. Stone, Father Miguel's voice carried across the dawn. Send out the boy and you can live. This is your last chance. Counteroffer, Jacob shouted back. You leave now, and I only shoot half of you. You're outnumbered 10-1. I'm motivated 10-1. Evens out. The first shots shattered windows. Jacob returned fire, methodical. 1 man down. 2. Samuel's rifle cracked from the back room. The boy could shoot. But there were too many. They'd get flanked soon. Overrun. Jacob had always known this was how it would end. But he'd hoped for more time. Hoped to see Samuel safe first. Mr. Jacob, Samuel's voice high with something that wasn't fear. Listen. That's when Jacob heard it too. Thunder. But the sky was clear. They came over the ridge like something from Samuel's drawing. 200 riders. Maybe more. Painted for war. Armed with old rifles and new rage. The crow had received the letters. Had remembered promises. Had come. Father Miguel's hired guns took one look and ran. No amount of money was worth facing that many warriors defending one of their own. Stop them, Miguel screamed. But he was alone now. Even Sheriff Patterson had fled. The riders flowed around the house like water around stone. Surrounded the priest.
Waited.
An old man dismounted, face weathered by decades, eyes sharp as obsidian. He looked at the house, at the boy visible in the window. Samuel Birdsong, he called in accented English. Son of Mary stands alone. We have come as promised. Samuel burst from the house and ran to the old man. Was lifted, embraced, and passed from rider to rider. Family greeting family. The lost is found. Jacob stayed on the porch. This wasn't his moment. But Samuel broke free, ran back, and grabbed his hand. This is Jacob Stone, the boy announced to me. He stood for me when no one else would. He is clan now. The old man studied Jacob. The boy claims you as family? The boy saved me as much as I saved him. Then you are Crow. You are us. The old man smiled. I am Samuel's grandfather, Joseph Birdsong. We thank you. I didn't do it for thanks. No, you did it because it was right. That's why the thanks matter. Father Miguel tried to run. Didn't get far. The riders brought him back, threw him at Jacob's feet. He's yours, Hannah, Joseph Birdsong said. You sheltered our boy from him. His fate is your choice. Jacob looked at the priest, saw fear there. The kind of fear the man had put in children's eyes for years. Take his clothes, Jacob said. All of them. Let him walk back to his mission naked as the day he was born. Let everyone see what he is without his collar and authority. Just a man, a small, cruel man. That's all? Joseph asked. That and this, he signs papers. Releases Samuel, releases every child in that mission who wants to leave, or we let the younger warriors decide his fate. Miguel signed, handshaking, then ran, white flesh flashing in the morning sun, pursued by laughter and justice. As the sun climbed, the riders made camp. But this wasn't the end. This was beginning. They'd brought more than themselves. Pack horses laden with gifts, blankets,
food,
weapons, tools, everything needed to turn a dying ranch into living land again. We cannot take the boy, Joseph explained. The white law would follow, find us, punish all for one. But you, he studied Jacob, you they cannot touch. You have papers, land, turtina, rights they understand. You want me to keep Samuel? Except we want you to be what you've already become. His protector, his teacher, his father in this world while we remain his family in the other world. Joseph gestured to the gifts. We will support, visit, ensure you want for nothing, but he needs to walk both paths. You can teach him that. Jacob looked at Samuel. The boy stood between worlds, green eyes holding question and hope. What do you want? Jacob asked him. I want to stay, Samuel said simply, with you. But I also want, he gestured at the riders, this, them, all of it. Then you'll have it, all of it. The riders stayed 3 days, teaching Samuel songs he'd never learned, stories his mother hadn't lived to tell, filling the empty places with culture, with history, with belonging. But they also worked, fixed every broken thing on the ranch, built a new barn, dug a well, planted gardens, 200 hands making light of labor. Why? Aranana, Jacob asked Joseph one evening. Because the boy's letter spoke of you, of your loss.
your pain.
We know this pain. Lost children, lost chances. But here, he gestured at Samuel, laughing with cousins he'd just met. Here his chance returned. For all of us. I'm not his father. No, his father is dead. You're something else. Something English doesn't have a word for. The one who chooses to stand when standing is hard. The one who makes family from promise instead of blood. That night they held ceremony. Welcomed Jacob formally into the clan. Gave him a crow name. Man who guards the spring. Because he'd protected new growth. Because he'd let hope flow again. Samuel translated, eyes bright with pride. You're really family now. Forever family. That include the 200 riders visiting regular? Jacob asked, but he was smiling. Probably. That a problem? No. Ranch was too quiet anyway. The harvest of hearts 1 year later. The ranch had transformed. Where drought had ruled, gardens grew. Where silence had reigned, laughter lived. The house that had sheltered one broken man now held 2 healing hearts and regular visits from 200 others. Samuel had grown. Taller, stronger, surer. He moved between worlds with Grace reading Greek with Jacob in the mornings and riding with visiting cousins in the afternoons. His English is perfect, his crow is fluent, and his heart is large enough for both. Letter for you, Jacob said one morning, returning from town. Samuel read quickly, his face darkening. St. Catherine's burned down. Lightning? That's what they're saying, but... Samuel passed the letter over. Father Miguel died inside, doors barred from outside. Jacob read carefully. The official story was accident. The whispered story was justice. Several former students had been seen in the area. Young men now, with memories, with matches. How do you feel about that? Samuel considered. Sad, not for him, for what had to happen, for the boys who had to become killers to be free. He looked at Jacob. Is that wrong? To be sad for necessary things? No, that's wisdom. Understanding that sometimes right and easy are enemies. Will they come for those boys? Maybe, probably not. Hard to prove, harder to convict. And the mission had many enemies. Jacob set the letter aside. But they're free now, all of them. That matters. That afternoon brought unexpected visitors. A wagon with 3 women and 8 children, all Indian, all nervous, all carrying the look Samuel had worn that first night. Please, the eldest woman said. We heard this was a safe place for children who don't fit the schools. Who needs to stay Indian while learning white ways? Jacob looked at Samuel. The boy's eyes were already calculating where to put them, how to feed them, and what to teach first. We've got room, Samuel said. Mr. Jacob, we've got room, right? We'll make room. To the woman, welcome. I'm Jacob Stone. This is my son, Samuel Birdsong. Your children are safe here. Son, first time he'd used the word. Samuel's smile could have lit the darkness. They settled the new arrivals, found spaces, made plans. The ranch became something neither had expected, a school of a different kind, where children learned both worlds without losing themselves to either. That evening, as they watched the new children explore their temporary home, Samuel asked, "Is this what healing looks like? Taking in others who hurt like we hurt? Maybe. Or maybe healing is just another word for purpose, for finding reason to wake up beyond habit. I'm glad I found your fence that night." "So am I, son. So am I." The seasons turned. The unofficial school grew. Joseph Birdsong and the writers visited monthly, bringing supplies, stories, and connection to the wider world. The ranch became a bridge between cultures, and Samuel its perfect translator. Jacob taught mathematics and literature. Samuel taught riding and tracking. Visiting elders taught history that no white school would recognize. The children thrived, growing strong in both worlds. But growth brought attention. "Federal inspector coming," Sheriff Patterson warned during a town visit. He'd been friendlier since Father Miguel's death. Fear was a powerful teacher. "Wants to see your irregular educational arrangement." "Let him come. We're doing nothing wrong. You're teaching Indian kids to stay Indian." In their eyes, that's everything wrong. Jacob bought supplies and headed home thinking they'd need to be ready, papers in order. Children are coached on what to say, the dance of survival in a world that demanded conformity. But when he arrived, Samuel met him with a different concern. "Mr. Jacob, there's something you should see." In the barn, hidden in fresh hay, lay a woman, Indian, fevered, clutching a bundle that moved. "She walked in from the desert," Samuel explained. "Says she's looking for her son. Says she heard he might be here." The woman's eyes opened, focused on Jacob with effort. You saved a boy 2 winters ago from the rain." "Samuel? My sister's son. I thought he was dead." But rumors came, stories. A boy who draws, who speaks both tongues, who lives with a white man who stands like a father. Tears tracked through dust on her face. "I walked so far. Is he real?" "Samuel," Jacob called. "Come here." The boy appeared, saw the woman, went still as stone. "Aunt Rose," whisper thin, disbelieving. "Samuel, oh child, you lived. You lived." The reunion was tears and crow words and careful embraces around the baby she carried. Her story came in pieces. Husband dead. Reservation life is killing her slowly. The decision to run, to find the rumored nephew, to chance everything on blood and hope. "You'll stay," Jacob said. Not a question. Statement. "We can't impose. You're Samuel's family. That makes you mine. You'll stay." The federal inspector arrived a week later. Marcus Whitman, no relation to the pastor, he insisted quickly. A thin man with nervous hands and kind eyes trapped in an unkind job. He toured the ranch school, saw children learning English and Crow, mathematics and traditional stories, Shakespeare and sacred songs. His face grew more troubled with each observation. "This is irregular," he said finally. "Effective," Jacob countered. "Every child here reads above level, calculates beyond their years, and knows who they are. Can't say that about the mission schools. But the mixing of cultures, the lack of proper Christian instruction, the absence of civilizing influence." "Mr. Whitman," Samuel stepped forward, 13 now and carrying himself like a chief's son. "Define civilization." What? Define it. Is it reading? I read Latin. Is it mathematics? I can calculate compound interest. Is it faith? I pray to both Christ and Crow spirits. Is it productivity? Our ranch feeds 20 people and profits besides. So tell me, what part of civilization are we lacking? Whitman stared. "You're very well spoken." "Because I was taught by a man who sees children as people, not projects, who believes education adds to what we are instead of erasing it." Samuel smiled. "Would you like to see our library? Mr. Jacob says, knowledge is the only wealth that multiplies when shared." They spent 3 days showing Whitman everything. The children performed, not like trained animals, but like confident young people proud of their accomplishments, switching between languages, solving complex problems, creating art that honored both traditions. Rose cooked meals that made Whitman close his eyes in pleasure. Never tasted anything like this. It's buffalo, she said innocently. Traditional recipe. Civilization didn't invent flavor, Mr. Whitman. Just forgot it. On his last night, Whitman sat with Jacob on the porch. I should shut you down. Everything about this violates federal guidelines for Indian education. But those guidelines are about erasing Indians. And what I see here is, he struggled for words, creation, synthesis, something new that honors the old. So I'm going to report that I found nothing. Just a rancher teaching some local children basic skills. Nothing worth investigating further. He stood to leave, then turned back. That boy, Samuel, he's remarkable. He was remarkable when he arrived. I just gave him room to grow. No, you gave him more than that. You gave him proof that bridges can be built. That's civilization, Mr. Stone. Real civilization. A month after Whitman left, Samuel woke Jacob before dawn. Listen, thunder. But like that first morning, the sky was clear. They stood on the porch as 200 riders crested the ridge. But this time, they brought more than themselves. Wagons, families, an entire clan moving. Joseph Birdsong rode to the gate. The reservation is killing us. Slowly but surely, we've decided to try something different. What's that? Living. Here, around here, buying land where we can, working for wages, sending our children to your school, building something that lets us be both what we were and what we must become. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of hope. You started it, Jacob Stone. You and the boy showed us bridges could hold weight. Joseph smiled. Will you help us? Not as a savior. As a neighbor. As family. Jacob looked at Samuel. The boy's eyes shone with possibility. We'll help. All of us. Together. The full circle. 5 years after a boy stumbled through rain to a fence, the Stone Ranch School had 30 students. The Crow settlement nearby had grown to 300 souls. Families working their own land. Children walking both paths. A community that shouldn't exist, but did. Jacob stood in the cemetery on the hill. Beth and Margaret's graves are now tended by many hands. Flowers growing where only sorrow had lived. You'd like him, he told the stones. Samuel, you'd like what we built. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes we fail. But we're trying. Building the world Margaret might have lived in, where different doesn't mean less. Footsteps behind him. Samuel, 18 now and tall as hope. The new families are here. From the Pine Ridge. Heard about us. Want to try our way. You ready for more students? Rose and I can handle it. The question is, are you ready for more chaos? Jacob smiled. Son, I was dead for 3 years. Chaos is just another word for alive. They walked back together. Grandfather and grandson in all but blood. Teacher and student. Saved and savior, though neither was sure anymore who was which. The ranch spread below them. Children playing in mixed languages. Adults working side by side. The impossible made daily. Thank you, Samuel said suddenly. For what? Who for stopping that night? When I was at your fence, you could have kept walking. Most would have. No, I couldn't have. Something in me recognized something in you. The broken calling to the broken. We're not broken anymore. No, we're repaired. Stronger at the mended places and helping others mend too. That evening, the entire community gathered for Harvest Feast. Crow traditions mixing with frontier customs, children performing plays in both languages, adults sharing food that honored all their histories. Marcus Whitman was there. He'd quit his federal job, come to teach at the school. Couldn't stop thinking about what you were doing. Had to be part of it. Welcome to the revolution, Jacob told him. It looks like children laughing. As night fell, Samuel stood to speak. Man now, but Jacob could still see the frightened boy at the fence. 5 years ago, I was lost. Running. Certain I'd die alone. Then I found a fence in the rain. And a man who didn't look away. His voice carried strong. He taught me that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's standing together when standing is hard. It's building bridges when everyone says canyons are permanent. He raised his cup. To Jacob Stone, who guards the spring, who fathers the fatherless, who proves every day that love is stronger than law. 200 voices raised in agreement. Jacob felt tears track down his weathered face. Good tears. Healing tears. Later, as the celebration wound down, he found himself at the fence where it all began. The post had been replaced, but he could still feel that night. The wrong creak that had become the most right thing in his life, a hand on his shoulder. Samuel. Regrets? The young man asked. None. You? Only that Pa couldn't see this. Couldn't know his drawing came true. Different than he imagined, but true. He knows, Jacob said with certainty. Somewhere he knows. They stood together in comfortable silence. Behind them, the ranch glowed with life. Before them, the prairie stretched endlessly with possibility. More will come, Samuel said. More lost children, more broken families, more people looking for a place between worlds. Let them come. We've got room. All of them? Not all we can hold. And when we're full, we'll build more. Teach others to build. Spread what we've learned until there's no child left standing in the rain with nowhere to go. Samuel smiled. That's a big promise. Good thing we know something about keeping promises, even impossible ones. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Real or riders, it didn't matter. Both meant the same thing now. Connection, family, the promise that no one stood alone unless they chose to. Come on, Jacob said. Rose saved us pie. And you know how the children get if we don't referee dessert? They walked back to the light, to the laughter, to the life built from one boy's tears and one man's recognition that sometimes the fence finds you. Sometimes the storm brings exactly what you need. Sometimes promises kept across prairies can heal wounds deeper than weather. Behind them, the fence stood quiet, waiting for the next lost soul who needed finding. Ready to creak wrong at just the right moment. Because that's how miracles work on the frontier. Not with angels or trumpets, but with broken people recognizing each other in the rain and choosing to stand together until the storm passes, forever and always. Until every lost child finds their fence, until every empty heart finds its thunder, until home means not where you're from, but who stands with you when the rain won't stop. The promise continues. If this story stirred something within you, even in silence, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Sometimes all we need is someone who stays, even without saying anything. Sometimes the most profound connections happen when we recognize our own storms in someone else's rain. Share your thoughts below. Every voice matters in this conversation about finding home in unexpected places.